Okay. Righty-ho, this is Pierre's plan for the week ahead, and you will notice Pierre has come back with a bang. He's now semi-retired but daddy daycare again. He's on his second childhood, or with the second childhood of his children, and he's back into this full-time, semi-full-time now. And he's done a post this morning, and he's saying that it's all a bit unclear and some flat spots and dead pairs and spot triangle pairs. And he's got a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And for me, plan D usually is, well, I'll leave it all alone and I'm going to take the day off. But what Pierre's talking about here is his earth and sky zones. And then he also trades counter trend from time to time, which I personally don't like, but he does, and he's successful at it. Plan C is taking trades from key support resistance levels with the odd M2 setups mixed in as well as. And again, Ashley and I tend to use earth and sky mixing in M2 for the bigger picture. And also we pay more attention to news than Pierre. So the moral of the story at the end of it all is that we all come up eventually with our own way of doing this. And when we teach people privately, people come to us and they already have some knowledge often, and they've got some indicators that they like, and that's fine. But what we do recommend is that you all study M2 first so that you understand the big picture. And you also can have it. I can have weeks when there's not a right lot going on for me, and yet in Forex world, and yet Pierre will have 10 potential trades lined up. So I recommend that you go through things in a step-by-step basis, as we've shown in here. Start here section, all about planning and where do you want to go. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and I was saying to he came up with a one-page plan of his life-stroke business plan. I said, well, you've not got much sorted, have you really? You really need to have some passion and put some thought into this. Where do you want to be? And this particular gentleman is in his mid-40s, and he's been focusing on getting lots and lots of money together for when he retires. And I said to him, well, you've got two young kids, and you're kind of doing without things now and putting fortunes into pensions, and nobody knows what's going to happen in the fullness of time. And I'm nearly 20 years older than him. And as you get older, you realize that time is more important. And I mentioned this before. I had a pension guy try to sell me a pension 35 years ago when I got four young kids, and just kind of having recovered from the financial crash of my divorce and getting custody of my kids from my first marriage. This pension guy came to me and said I needed to put in £1,500 a month away 35 years ago. Wasn't going to happen. So in the end, I started buying property, and property was giving me income straight away as well as capital growth. So think a little bit differently, and don't always be thinking about what you're going to do in 20 years' time. Because let's face it, none of us have a clue what's going to be happening in 20 years' time. And with Trump at the moment, none of us have really got an idea of what's going to happen tomorrow. It's that chaotic at the minute. So also on the subject of Pierre, he has been updating his earth and sky. So he's working his way through it at the moment, and he's going to be making some new videos. He's also going to be putting in some more up-to-date examples. And again, we had comments from people in the past, oh, these videos are 10 years old. Well, the thing is, Pierre's been using this system since 2010. And the fact that it keeps working and the fact that my M2 keeps working is majorly important, because most strategies do not stand the test of time. And also people tend to play around all the time. You get a lot of people, particularly South Africans. I don't know what it is with you South Africans, but you love your EAs and your robots and things. And people build these robots and they back test them and they get them going and they're doing great. And then suddenly, oh, crap. And it's just suddenly wiped out 30% of the account. But at the end of the day, what we're doing here is proven, and it's been tested and proven with loads and loads of members as well. So focus on the big picture first. But anyway, Pierre's doing that up. When he's finished doing it all up and updating it all, we will let you know. But he's hoping to get it, well, he said this week. It's probably going to be next week now. On the other subject here, I don't know if many of you noticed this, but if you join as a lifetime member, you get an hour with me or Ashley. If you join as an annual member, you get half an hour with Ashley or myself. But if you want an extra session, and the gentleman today, Jason, who joined us in November, he's gone through all the basics, but he just needs a bit of guidance. And if you wish, you can book Ashley for an hour for $100. So you get the chance to talk to a pro trader, get your list of questions before you meet up with him and send them over to him. And he will spend an hour with you and go through everything. And believe me, the amount of time it can change. I was talking to a private client the other week, and he got completely the wrong end of the stick with, I can't remember if it was fibs or something. It literally got it the wrong way around. And he'd been looking at it through that lens for the last 3-4 months. So do yourself a favor. Ashley's got some time at the moment. Then have a chat with him and have a session if you're struggling or you just need some clarity. Obviously, in the forum, these guys are contributing all the time anyway. So this week, as Pierre pointed out, there's not too much news. I had a quick look at the yellow flag this morning. When there's not much going on with the red flag, I kind of do have a look and see, but there's nothing too startling in here. Obviously, as Pierre pointed out, there's speeches all week, which are a nightmare. And there's Trump's State of the Union tomorrow. And at the moment, I keep saying it's like he throws a hand grenade in the room and says, well, this is the room. The hand grenade's just gone off and there's stuff all everywhere. So I have no idea how he's going to spin this one. Obviously, the Supreme Court ruling on Friday was a major blow for Trump. But also the fact that they didn't say, well, it's got to be repaid or not, has left chaos. So this is making things extremely difficult, guys. So don't be disheartened if you don't understand what's going on, because often I scratch my head and don't know. Keep up to date, go to market all the time. And as he says, when all is said and done in FX, little has been done. Very good. If you just want to focus on a few things, free things, this is great for news. I have a free subscription to Barron's. The thing with Barron's and WSJ, Wall Street Journal, you realize when you're reading the American press, generally it's mainly American stuff. I mean, they do have a world section, but you're getting a very focused view from the USA. And you need to understand with the currency markets and all markets what's going on in other countries. And it always used to make me smile years ago that they were showing you American television. They were showing you how it wasn't funny at the time. The Americans were going on bombing runs, I think in Iran or somewhere, and they're having to show them on a map for the American public where the UK is because the planes were landing to refuel in the UK. So there is a danger particularly if you're living in America, that you need to open your mind a little bit further and see what the other side of the world interpretation is and things that are going on in other parts of the world. I mean, an interesting one that's going on at the moment is that there have been a few arrests in the UK. So Mandelson, who's always been a crook, was arrested yesterday over his Epstein revelations. Former Prince Andrew has also been arrested. And yet I don't think in America anybody's been arrested, has there? So again, all this that's been going on for years and years and years, finally coming out. And at the moment, it's a bit like the bankers. It appears that nobody's going to go to jail, apart from a few Brits. And then WSJ, as I've had a look, I've just been having a look here. China, now this is important, and you need to pay attention to news, particularly if you are investing. Now, I have been buying stocks in US rare earth metals. I've explained it to you before, the implications, and China threatened to withdraw. They control 90% of the world's rare earth metals. And I explained that they did a deal with Trump, and I'll show you on the chart in a little while. And they said for a year they'll behave. Well, Japan upset them the other week and criticized them about Taiwan. So they've turned around and said, right, you're not having any, or you're not getting many. And this is a major, massive problem for the Western world. China controls 90% of rare earth metals. And just to give you an idea, one F-35 jet has 435 kilos, which is 1,000 pounds in rare earth metals each jet. And it's in everything. It's in TVs, it's in fridges, it's in computers and phones. The world needs it. I have been buying it, and it's dropping at the moment, and I have been buying more. Another one to read, which is a completely opposite perspective geographically and gives you a better idea what's going on in the Middle East, is Al Jazeera. So they have their stance on it from an Arab perspective and from India and Pakistan, etc. So just get in the habit of understanding what's going on. It will help you to become a better trader, and it will also help you to avoid losing trades and losing investments. And then China now this week, well, last week I said to my folks, look, silver and gold might slip last week because it was Chinese New Year. They've been the ones doing all the buying of gold and silver. So that went on last week. It started to go up again, and I have been buying. But this is really important as well. The Shanghai Futures Exchange has announced that in future, they will not allow futures trading other than to regulated investors and companies who need to hedge. And the reason is, I've explained many times before, silver market particularly and gold have been rigged by the futures trading, particularly from America and London, where the banks have made billions of dollars from betting to force the price up and force it back down again, but without ever buying the actual metal. But what's important within here, China is doing this right now. Their registered silver stocks have plunged to under 350 tons. China is the biggest holder of silver on the planet, the lowest in over a decade and down 88% from the 2021 peak. So there ain't enough of it. China is starting to clamp down to stop this crookedness that goes on with the futures. And the bottom line is just ain't enough of it. So if there's not enough of something, then supply and demand, very basic economics. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to know much. If there's not enough of something and the demand is going up, then the price will go up. Right. So on that subject, this is, I showed you this the other week. This is how basically I've said to my students and investors and investing group is that this is the way that I started, or I suggest to people if they're starting to invest. And I have mining stocks of at least 20%. They're up over 30 odd percent again because they've now shot back up again. But I have the miners that are counterbalancing the crypto. So crypto's down at the moment. It's getting hammered because the tariffs made it worse. But the miners are up. So my portfolio is okay. And then I've got some in rare earth metals. And that's not, is rare earth not on there? No, I've got some in rare earth metals. I said to somebody the other day, maybe 5% at the moment, but it's something that's worth buying little bits at a time. Uranium, I'm going to show you something about that in a moment. I've been buying that for the last few years and heavily in the last few months when it all tanked. Quantum has gone down significantly the minute because it's the future, but it's cheap. So if you've got a spare $100, then think about it and have cash. So October, November last year, I said to my investors, right, I am taking some profit out of my silver miners, particularly because I want cash in case there's a crash. Well, just as well that I did, because we did have a pullback described by the news as a crash, but it was a pullback and it was understandable. I mean, this is Agnico Eagle mines, and this is what markets do all the time. They go up, they pull back, they go up, they pull back, up, you get the picture. These are all M2 breakouts all the way up on this. And another fib, another pullback, and pullbacks into 55 EMA and a trend line. This M2 works, in my experience, great on stocks as well. Now, if you are in this, I was talking to somebody yesterday, he said, I don't really know when to take profit. So let's say he bought down here, which was a recent buy for me. He's up 60%. So let's say he's put 1,000 in and he's now at $1,600. Partly this depends on your tax situation, because if you are in a tax-free account, i.e. you're not paying tax on profits, then that's easy. You just take some profit and remove some of your stake is my suggestion. However, if you're going to pay tax on it, I didn't sell my silver recently because I was going to have to pay 40% tax on it anyway, so I could stand a 40% drop. And I had hedged a little bit and done a few other things. But this now, if you're up 60%, let's say you've put 1,000 in and now you're 1,000 at 1,600 and you're getting a bit twitchy, then at the very least, consider taking out $500 or $750, or maybe even take the whole 1,000 out. But then my thing is then keep what's left. And what I've got left now is bought and paid for, and I've got the cash out. So if this thing comes back down here again to 78.6 fib, 55 EMA, previous major support and resistance, and gives me the potential to make at least 25%, well, we're pushing it to the recent highs, then I will buy that again and then just rinse and repeat. So that is the way I have been doing it. I have been buying gold and silver in recent days, and I've just shown you from a fundamental point of view, while I am happy to buy silver, one of my clients put more cash in his bullion vault account yesterday, and we bought some more silver, roughly where it is now, and we bought gold, and we bought more gold as well, roughly where that is now. And the silver particularly was a particularly good one. I was buying this on the way down the other week, so the recent purchases will be cost averaged in here, and that would be 40 odd % to where it was 3 weeks ago. And I put out the thing on Telegram I shared with you last time. I don't think anything has changed fundamentally. So for me, these are buying opportunities. And many of them you will see come down to 78.6 fib and the 55 EMA. Some of the things I'm buying are not technically in the right place, but I'm buying them for fundamental reasons. These were ones I shared the other week and said, okay, the ones in green, that these were a buy for me. And this originally, when somebody was asking us about fibs. So I had this originally fibbed at this. So we're looking at a pullback to 78.6 fib, 20, the whole number just before, major previous support and resistance, and a trend line in a market that I am strongly convinced is going to continue going up for fundamental reasons, and gave me a 37.8% profit back to the recent high. And it has done that now in 3 weeks. 38% profit in 3 weeks is nuts. I actually would put a link in tomorrow and say Mark did okay on that one. Right, First Majestic Silver's gone up. Now, on the subject of fibs, fibs is very subjective, and we did have a question from Jason, and he was asking about fibs, and we've done this lots of times before, but as just said, the original fib level for me was the recent low to the recent high. When it pulls back down again, I am still of a mind that this is in an uptrend. So this is tricky. When it gets to here first, this is a bit tricky because where do you go for a while? But once it sets off again, I am thinking until it gets back above here, I'm going to leave the fib there. Once it moves, you could have gone to there. It is very subjective. However, once it moves to a new high, it's a lot easier because now you move from your recent low to your recent high, and then I adjust the alarm settings because that would be the sweet spot for me on this if it can make 25%. Yep, 30% to where it was. If it comes down here the next week, that will be 30% higher as of today. 78.6 fib, previous support and resistance, trend line in an uptrend in a market that I believe fundamentally is going to be positive. And the other thing is get in the habit, if you use TradingView, the news on here is very good because it gives you all the latest stuff. And I was reading the other day, AG, their stock, what was it? Record revenue, strong cash flow, higher dividends set the stage for growth 4 days ago. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was a buy opportunity. 78.6 fib, uptrend, fundamentals support the theory, and hey, this company's doing good. Why the hell was it down? Because the markets are silly. Core mining was another one I said the other week. 78.6 fib in an uptrend, pullback, trend line, 55 EMA. This is easy, isn't it? EXK, same again. 61.8, 78.6 fib. Potential to make more than 25%. All the green ones were the ones that I sent out to my investing group. So on here, core mining, GROI rather, was 25% lower than it'd been 2.5 weeks before. Heckler, we actually bought a bit more Heckler for a client again yesterday at around current price. Heckler is 45% away from where it was a month ago. Has everything changed so much in that period of time in terms of supply and demand? No. And again, what's going on here? Reports 2025 silver and gold production, US approval for exploration, that's new sites, record financial results, and a sharpened silver focus set the stage for future growth. Record revenue, net income, and free cash flow driven by operational excellence and a strategic focus on silver. They've also sold something, and they've got something else coming on the balance sheet, and towards 20 million ounce of annual silver production. Silver was being produced and sold for $17 an ounce 4 years ago. It is now $88 and was at $120 the other week. So therefore, for me, that was a buy. No questions asked. This is McLeod Substack. I recommend this to everybody. I'll put it in the chat box again. Very good detail. The guy's in his probably late 70s now, is Alistair. He knows the gold market inside out. And he, particularly from the inside, is very useful to know what's going on as well, in his opinion. And there was a good article down here the other day, and he was talking about how silver gets slammed by the big boys trying to drive it back down again. But if you want to understand more about gold and silver, then he's the main man for me. Then uranium. I mentioned uranium earlier, and I've mentioned this gentleman before. If you look for Uranium Insider, and the guy's called Justin Huhn, Huhn, very good on uranium. I have been buying uranium for the last 5 years, been buying more in the last few weeks. Had to look up the dictionary meaning of bifurcating this morning. Anybody know the answer to that one? But he, as he says, I mean, this is all he does all day. He looks at the uranium markets and he's explaining what's been going on at a recent mining conference on Wednesday and how Kazakhstan is doing which is a major producer of uranium, have just done or in the process of completing a deal with India for 50% of their production. 50% of Kazakhstan's production of uranium is taken off the table. That means there is less of it for other countries who are expanding nuclear power. Ergo, the price of uranium should go up. Not rocket science. Okay, right. I had some questions, so I'm going to quickly show you some technical analysis now. Jason was asking me, and then Ashley and I were having a discussion about fibs a little earlier as well. Yes, Justin. Julian was the quickest into the dictionary. Bifurcation was 2 directions. He actually mightn't have known that answer anyway. Devon says, you mentioned previously stopped using the open range breakout strategy at London Open. Is there a reason? Yeah, it doesn't work anymore, Devon. It was great. It was easy. It was like falling off a log at a London Open. It doesn't work anymore, so moveon.com. Yeah, India and Brazil have just done a critical earth metal deal last week to curb China's influence, says Devon as well. So even those who at the moment may be on China's side are still covering their own bases, and China and India keep having a little bit of an upset on their border as well. And yeah, okay, we can explain that to you next time, Devon, in a private session, but it just doesn't work anymore. Right, so on the subject of structure and things first, we start with the dollar index. We've now had 4 or 5 times on a weekly that price has rejected at this area. So to help you to avoid losing trades is do not go shorting the US dollar unless you're in for a few pips when the US dollar index gets anywhere down here. Of course, for 7-8 months now, it's just bounced repeatedly off. So again, not rocket science. Equally, I wouldn't be buying here because the 55 EMA has held it down now for 4 days in a row. And I have this fibbed from the recent high, which was that one, to the recent low, which is that one. And price is repeatedly bouncing off 61.8 and 55 EMA. You would not go long. Gold. So with gold, I had gold fibbed from before. If you imagine this hasn't happened yet. So I fibbed it here, recent low to recent high. And I then was looking, and I shared with you when it got up here, this would be the sweet spot for a buy from me, anywhere between 5,000. But that was the final line in the sand, 55 EMA. And remember, we are trying always to build a picture with technical analysis. You're trying as an element of trying to make this stuff fit. 55 EMA, trend line, in an uptrend. And look at the 55 EMA has been in control of this for a year or more. 61.8 fib, 78.6 fib. Potential for it to make a decent amount. Now, when it comes to buying gold, I don't stick to the rule of 25% because gold doesn't usually make that much of a move. Another question, and we've got to show you a few more fibs in a moment. Another question Jason was asking was about MACD divergence. And I know some of you get a bit confused with this. MACD divergence is when the high here and the high there is either this high is lower or when it's level. It's not quite as clear here, but when it's level here. So in this instance here, the price of that one, actually that's not a good example. Let's find another one. All right, we'll find another one in a moment because it's a bit extreme is this one. Silver. Oh, sorry, going back to gold. So that was the initial fib. Once it's come back down into here, I hadn't refibbed it, but I'm now getting to the point where I'm thinking, well, I really maybe ought to. But again, it's subjective. It's not, yeah, it's not the easiest one to define, but you're just basically trying to think where everybody else is putting it. So now if I put it in there, recent high, recent low, it comes into here, I would be thinking to buy gold. Silver, same scenario. Original fib would have, I think I'd fibbed it here to here, and I even stayed in with this one. Let's find a better example. USD Swissy. So the USD Swissy, I had fibbed. And remember, you're looking for 5 reasons all the time with M2. So it's like earth and sky. It's making it painting by numbers. You just follow the rules. Can you find 5 reasons to support the theory? So I fibbed from the recent high to the recent low on the daily. And in the same area here, I have 55 EMA, 50% fib, previous major support and resistance. I think I had a trend line in somewhere over there. It's just too far away to help. Perhaps I had another trend line. Well, we could put it in there for now. But that would be the way that I would fib that one. Euro USD, if I was fibbing it long, what you don't want to do is fib it too far away. And to fib from here would be 8 months ago. So you fib the recent low to the recent high. Don't pay too much attention to weekly. It's too far away usually, but we'll have a look on daily. This is a good example of MACD divergence. Here, this low high here is a little bit lower than that one there, whereas here, clearly, the high is much higher. That was a clue the price was probably going to drop. And it's surprising how often these things do work. You get cynics who say, well, it's all mumbo jumbo, but you'd be surprised how often it works. I can see it there as well. So you've got a lower low here, and then here you've got a higher low. So here it's not the most exaggerated one I can find, I'm sure. There's another one here, the price here. So you're looking up here, that price is going up, and the price of MACD here is going down. A clue again, and look, it did it again. So it does happen more times than not, but as ever, you can't take trades just from MACD divergence. I can spot another one here. I'm better at these than I am with head and shoulders. I never see head and shoulders patterns. And if it's an upside down head and shoulders pattern, I literally have to stand with my head twisted, and I'm doing it now. Is that MACD divergence there? So you get the picture. If it's a lower high here and a higher low there, then that is MACD divergence. And it's the only time I use MACD. I don't use it for anything else. Now, euro pound, if I was trading this now, originally I had this in a downtrend. And then I shared the other week, I think Rudolph's with us at the moment. I showed you the other week, he was toying with the idea of longing here. And I said, well, hang on. If you have a look to the left, and again, as Pierre always says, always look to the left. You look to the left, that was a massive area of previous support and resistance. So even though this was in a clear down channel and it had broken the channel, I still was of a mind not to rush to buy it because I felt that it could well fail. And the reason why I said to Rudolph at the time is, look at this. How many times does it stop to the pip as support or resistance here? So the probability of it getting through is less than the probability of not getting through. So what I said to Rudolph at the time was, I want a clear breakout here. I want it up here, then pull back. This will move it. Then I will refib it. Then I will have a go. So even though on this instance it has broken my 78.6 fib, one rule, I am still of a mind not. So now if I'm going to fib this now, I'm going to fib this going up, but the fibs don't help me yet. So not the one. Now the one that Ashley and I were just looking at actually was dollar yen. USD CAD. I would fib that. That's tricky. Right. So what Ashley and I were looking at was this for dollar yen. Ashley and Grant, I think, had been looking at this, and Ashley was thinking of fibbing this from the high to the low because he saw this as a breakdown. When we were talking about it first thing this morning, I thought, well, hang on, this is still in an uptrend, and therefore for me, this is an uptrend. This is a trend line. This is a major area of previous support and resistance. So everything going on here, for me, this was more of a move up than a move down. So I had fibbed from here to here, and I was looking for a pullback to long. So Ashley, on the other hand, was looking to short, and neither of us are right and neither of us are wrong. It is down to individual interpretation. So it's not easy, but half the time you're just trying to make the things fit and you're trying to think where everybody else is putting these things. But as I say, for me, I think structurally, the longer term of this, yes, we broke down out of a channel, a range up here, but for me, this was still a major area. So a bit of a tricky one, really, for teaching people, because when even we're of different points of view. Again, for me on this one, you've got clear MACD divergence was going on there, and then it didn't work. So again, it works more times than not, but it doesn't. Nothing works all the time. NZD, pound CAD, euro yen. Nah, don't like it when they're trapped, stuck on an EMA. This is Aussie yen that I had put on here the other week and forgotten about it again. And so for me, the fib on that one would be clearly from there to there, recent high, recent low to recent high. Pull back into here now would be multiple reasons. I would have 107, 78.6 fib, previous major support and resistance, 55 EMA coming up behind it. Really now I need to be doing that. So I need to put the stop below the at 55, and this will continue to move up as this does. And then I am risking 70 for a potential 380. So it ticks all the boxes. Right, I said to Ashley I didn't have much to talk about this morning. Divergences must be at key levels of support and resistance, says Pierre. Again, that's his take on it. Means nothing if it's in no man's land. I don't go into too much depth. I just see MACD divergence, and for me, it's a clue. Grant thought that something was still in an uptrend. USD yen, easy question. Are we above or under the 200 EMA? And again, Pierre's definition, if we're above the 200 EMA, we're going long. So again, depends how much attention you pay. But it's, again, there's three of us and we've all got a different opinion. So make of that what you will. Right, I need to give Ashley some time to get on with his stuff. If anybody does have a subject that you want us to cover in more detail next time, let us know through the forum or through the help desk. And I am currently in this. And again, I was in it last week, got in again yesterday. And it's like watching paint dry at the moment. The best thing for me to do with this, because it's lost momentum, I want to halve the risk on this. So I'm going to move it in there. So at least if it takes me out now, I'm only going to lose 0.25% instead of half. And I might just knock this on the head in the next hour or two. Other than that, I was in the New Zealand Swissy. I moved the stop, thankfully, because it had moved up and then came back down and took me out till the day. So, and I think Grant was asking as well, would you take it now? Not sure at the minute, Grant. The 55's been in control for 5 days. It is not broken the 78.6 fib properly. There is the whole number. If in doubt, walk away, which is what we started with at the beginning of this conversation when Pierre was saying he wasn't sure either. So if you're not sure, plan D for me is just leave it alone. Righty-ho, I will hand you now over to Ashley while I go find some food.
Thank you, Mark. How long are you doing this fasting thing?
I got to stop because I'm losing too much weight. I'm now going to a personal trainer to try to put some muscle back on because I've lost muscle as well. So yes, it's stopping today. Righty-ho, I will stop sharing now.